Yo, what up, everybody? It's your boy FitzMugTV here, aka GLauren33. I'm back here on Monica's channel. I know it's been a while, but we're gonna be discussing Spider-Man, the future for Spider-Man in live-action films. I'm talking about both Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. All right, there's a lot of confusion going on in the air, so I just want to clear up some of that confusion about what's going on with the Spider-Man character. So basically, Sony and Disney are technically still talking. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with the future of the Spider-Man character. Alright, there's been a lot of details that have come out in the past week and a half about, this whole Sony versus Disney situation. One of the new details that recently came out is that Tom Holland, and you got to remember here, Tom Holland's contract to play Peter Parker, to be Spider-Man, is not with Marvel Studios. It's with Sony. Sony owns all the rights to the Spider-Man character. So Tom Holland, who has agreed to play Peter Parker, to play Spider-Man, his contract is Sony. Sony's the one that pays him. Marvel Studios does not pay Peter Parker at all, or Tom Holland at all. All right, but one interesting story that came out in the last couple of days is that Tom Holland he actually filmed a cameo for the Venom movie that came out last fall. He filmed a cameo for the Venom movie, but it was Marvel Studios that forced Sony to take out that scene from the Venom film. Alright, because at the time Spider-Man was in the MCU, and you also have to remember around that time in 2018, when Venom came out, we were just a couple months removed from Infinity War, where we saw, Tom Holland's character, Peter Parker, he got dusted when Thanos snapped his fingers. So, you could see why Marvel didn't want that Tom Holland cameo to be in the Venom movie. But now with, Tom Holland being out of the MCU, at least for right now, Sony can do whatever they want since they have the rights to the Spider-Man character and Marvel does not. So, going into the future, you gotta remember here, Sony versus Disney, the whole situation comes down to money. Alright, it has nothing to do with Kevin Feige, Robert Downey Jr., the Russos, has nothing to do with any of those people. Has nothing to do with the people that made Homecoming, Far From Home, Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War, has nothing to do with any of those people. It comes down more to the higher executives at Sony, at Disney, when it comes down because money. Sony makes all the money from the Spider-Man films. So this more pertains to, Homecoming and Far From Home. Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War, those other films that Spider-Man was in, Sony didn't get no money from that really. Alright, because those were Marvel films. Alright. The Homecoming and Far From Home were Sony films just put under the MCU label. So Sony was making all the money from those two movies. So box office, DVD, Blu-ray, anything like that, Marvel was getting none of it. Sony was bringing home all the profits. The only money that Marvel was making from Spider-Man being in the MCU, other than Endgame, Infinity War, and Civil War, was from merchandise, toys, and all that. It's not like Marvel needed the money from Homecoming and Far From Home. You see how much Marvel makes just from Endgame and Infinity War alone. Alright, but it's a business. Disney's going to want to make as much money as they can. So they wanted it to be more 50-50. And Sony was like, no, we're not doing that. And Sony thinks that they can make just as good, if not better, Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland and Marvel Studios. So they decided to walk away from the table. It's sad, but yes, it just comes down to money. Alright, so regarding Spider-Man's, Spider-Man's future on in movies, in theaters, and we're gonna first talk about Marvel Studios, is going into the future, do not expect to see Spider-Man mentioned in the MCU. Alright, the events of Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War, Homecoming, Far From Home, all those events are still canon in the main MCU timeline. But just don't expect anybody really to mention that. Don't expect the Avengers or the Guardians or, Nick Fury, all the characters that Spider-Man interacted with over the last 5 movies he appeared in. Don't really expect anybody to mention him. Alright? Because unless Sony and Disney come to some new deal sometime very soon, don't expect anybody to mention Spider-Man, in any future films. It's going to be interesting to see how they do it, especially since, Tony Stark, Iron Man, the face of the MCU, basically when he dies in Endgame, he basically passes the torch to Spider-Man. And, Marvel was setting it up for, in Phase 4, Phase 5, Phase 6, beyond, for Spider-Man to be one of the faces of the MCU. All right? And, that was one of the biggest plot points of Far From Home. Now that Spider-Man is no longer in the MCU, it's going to be interesting to see, all right, now Marvel has to change things around because Spider-Man is not going to be there, at least for a couple years. All right? So don't expect people like Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel or some of the other Avengers to really mention Peter Parker. All right? Because if they do, Marvel Studios could get sued by Sony, and I know those two companies don't really want to get into a whole legal battle, at least for right now. We're not saying that Spider-Man will not ever come back to the MCU. We don't know how they're going to write him out. They could say something like, maybe Spider-Man got transferred to another universe, or maybe, he fell into some kind of coma, something happening. We don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how they handle that going into the future. Maybe 2-3 years down the line, if Marvel and Sony can, come to an agreement, yes, we could see Peter Parker come back to the MCU. Or maybe in time for the Avengers 5. Because right now, Marvel Studios doesn't really need Peter Parker. All right? Based on what's been announced for Phase 4 and, some of Phase 5, they don't really need Peter Parker. A lot of us believe Spider-Man 3 was going to happen in Phase 5. Now that's not going to happen, at least for right now. But Marvel Studios is not going to need Peter Parker the way it's going now. Most of the projects they have planned going forward, then they don't require Spider-Man's presence or for him to be mentioned at all. All right, it's gonna get a little more difficult once we get to something like Avengers 5, which probably won't be for another 4 or 5 years. All right, then it might get difficult because then people might be asking, "Oh, where's Spider-Man? He's an Avenger. We need him." So then, if Sony and Disney haven't figured out what they want to do, then it could get a little more confusing. All right, but for now, don't expect Peter Parker to be mentioned in the MCU going forward, at least for the next couple years. Now you look at Sony. Sony, it's a little bit different. Sony has the rights to Tom Holland and the Peter Parker character and all the other Spider-Man characters. So you won't be seeing MJ, you won't be seeing Ned, you won't be seeing Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Aunt May, Jonah J. Jameson, etc., etc., etc. You won't be seeing none of those characters in the MCU since Sony has the rights to all those Spider-Man characters. All right, unless somewhere down the line Sony and Disney fix their issues. But right now there is a plan for Spider-Man 3 to come out. The story, most likely it's been teased that we're going to get like the Sinister Six, so we'll probably be seeing the return of Vulture. Will he be recast? We don't know, but expect the Sinister Six to be the main villain for Spider-Man 3. We also know that Sony wants to plan Spider-Man and Venom. All right, they've been wanting to plan that for years. All right, we don't know if that's going to be a team-up movie or those two are going to go up against each other. Like I said earlier, they planned, Tom Holland filmed a cameo for the Venom movie, and Marvel Studios said no. Now that Marvel can't tell Sony no, now that Sony and Marvel no longer have an agreement, all right, we're going to see, eventually, we're going to see Tom Holland and Venom, we're going to see that crossover happen. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Will it happen in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man 3? Will it happen in Spider-Man 4? Is it going to happen in the second Venom movie? We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Also, maybe the biggest thing, they want to do a Spider-Man live-action Spider-Verse movie. This would involve Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man. They also want to get Andrew Garfield's from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And they want to get Tom Holland Spider-Man. All right, we saw how successful Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was, and they want to do a live-action version. That's going to happen a little bit later, maybe 4 or 5 years after they've done Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 4, after they've done the Spider-Man and Venom crossover, and who knows by that time if, Marvel and Sony have fixed their issues. But that's what's planned going further. All right, we're going to see Tom Holland. He's going to be Peter Parker in the next Spider-Man movie. But it's going to be interesting to see what changes they make to his character. Because it's going to be a different Spider-Man because he's no longer in the MCU. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they do this. They could easily go something like a multiverse route. All right, and just say, Tom Holland Spider-Man from the MCU got transferred to another universe. They could easily go down that direction and then start telling the story there. It'll be very, very interesting to see where they go. But mainly, that's about all I got for you guys in this video. Hopefully that clears up the confusion. So that's a quick wrap up. Spider-Man in the MCU going forward, he's not going to be mentioned. Not going to be mentioned at all. Don't expect to see any pictures of Spider-Man or pictures of Tom Holland, Peter Parker. Don't expect that at all, at least for right now. Things may change around the time as we get close to Avengers 5, whenever that drops, 4 or 5 years from now. Maybe things will change, but we'll have to wait and see. Sony has the rights to the Spider-Man character. We're going to get a Spider-Man 3 in a couple years. We'll probably get a Spider-Man 4 after that. We're probably going to get Spider-Man and Venom, where then we're probably going to eventually get a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse live-action film with Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, and Andrew Garfield. So that's about it. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to Monica's channel. Also, like, comment, subscribe to my channel, FitzMoTV. The link is down in the description down below. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, guys. Peace.